Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Hole. My name is Cole, and today we're going to go back 11 years ago to 2010 to talk about the really fun, really poppy, really energetic second album by Vampire Weekend, which is Contra. Oh my gosh, very tropical, very Afrobeat, very, very clever and creative, very memorable stuff. I really like it. Although I will say, I've never liked the final song, but that's the only song I don't like. So I'm very excited to talk about it with you guys. So let's dive in to track 1, which is called Horchata.
In December, drinking horchata, I'd look psychotic in a balaclava. Winter's cold is too much to handle. Pincher grabs the pinch at your sandals. Horchata, look down your glasses at that aranciata. With lips and teeth to ask how my day went. Boots and fists to pound on the pavement. Here comes the feeling you thought you'd forgotten. Just to sit in sidewalks to walk out.
So this is kind of a depressing song, if you really think about it, because it sounds like our main character, our hero, is newly single, but he's going on a vacation by himself, drinking horchata. He's in somewhere very warm, very tropical during the wintertime, during December, right? He's enjoying a cold drink while everybody else in like New York City is freezing to death. But the reason it's sad is because he's starting to remember his ex and how they used to go on these trips together and just how much better it is when you go on vacation with a boyfriend or girlfriend or just a friend in general. I mean, essentially, I might be alone on this, but in my opinion, you know, one of the reasons why I don't really travel by myself is because it's just not as much fun. This guy, is kind of feeling the same way is what it seems like. He's, you know, somewhere tropical. He went by himself to see if he could still have a good time or not without his ex-girlfriend. And all these feelings are flooding back to him. You know, he's thinking about how wonderful relationships make everything. Like everything seems new and beautiful when you are newly in love with somebody, you know. And the other thing about being in a relationship is that it encourages you to try stuff. It encourages you to go on these vacations. It encourages you to do random things like, let's take a dance lesson together, or let's take a cooking class together, you know, where when you're alone, you might not want to do that because it might be kind of boring. So this poor guy in this song, I imagine him deciding to go on vacation. He probably works really hard. But he can't help but remember all the good times he had with his ex going to whatever tropical island this is. So this poor guy, he had forgotten about her, but now his memories are flooding back and he's feeling kind of sad when he should be feeling really happy and excited because he's in this awesome tropical paradise. So that's what this song makes me think of. But let's move along to track number 2, which is a lot of fun. It's called White Sky.
Ancient business, a modern piece of glasswork. Down on the corner that you walk each day in passing. The elderly says clerk won't ask with suspicion. The whole of motor corporation's giving its permission. A little stairway, a pair of mirrors that are facing one another. Out in both directions, 1,000 little Julias. They come together in the middle of Manhattan. You waited
So I would say this song is pretty open to interpretation, but the way I think about it is there are a few lines that clue me into certain ideas. So at the beginning he says, "An ancient business, a modern piece of glasswork." And then he talks about Julias that are standing in between these mirrors that are facing each other. So what I imply from that is an ancient business would be prostitution, and the modern piece of glasswork might be some sort of instrument to take drugs. And this guy is walking along this street corner, probably buying drugs. You've got the girls on the corner, and you've got the elderly sales clerk looking at him, you know, not really surprised to see this young man buying drugs from this kind of shady situation. You know, he's just so used to it at this point. And it's Manhattan. It's New York City. You can do whatever you want in New York City. Everything is available to you. And at the end of this clip, it sounds like the drugs are finally kicking in. He's finally having his like acid trip or whatever it is, you know. So, and then the Julias, of course, to me symbolize, along with the mirrors, it symbolizes, you know, the decision that a young woman makes to either succumb to drugs in the party life or to live kind of a normal life and, you know, become successful and have a career and have a family. And so you've got like prostitution on one end and then successful Manhattanites on the other. Because obviously Manhattan is a place where you have polar opposites standing out. You've got like the super wealthy people and then you've got the super poor people all intermingling. So it's kind of a complex song. You know, it's talking about the choices people make. It's talking about how certain things are normal depending on where you are. And I don't know, you know, it's a very upbeat sounding song, but it sounds a little bit sad, you could say, because we kind of just expect that people like prostitutes will exist. It's what the song is kind of saying, right? Like this ancient business is always going to be around. They're always going to be on the street corner. The elderly sales clerk has been around the block a few times, as they say. So he just kind of knows what the deal is. You know, he's like, oh, here's another guy getting high, or here's another guy hooking up with some prostitute, like whatever. So anyway, so the song makes me think of all these things. But let's move along to track 3, which is another really upbeat poppy song. It's called Holiday.
Holiday, oh holiday, and the best one of the year. Dozing off underneath my sheets while I cover both my ears. But if I wait for a holiday, could it stop my fear to go away on a summer's day? Never seemed so clear.
So this is kind of a funny song, in my opinion, because you've got this guy who works really, really hard, is what it sounds like. And now it's finally like a Monday holiday, you know, whichever holiday it is. It sounds like it's around the spring or summertime. But in other words, he's celebrating this holiday by basically just sleeping in, right, with his earmuffs on. Maybe he's got like those black eye patches that people wear to block out the sunlight. So instead of like doing something really fun or visiting some cool place for a vacation, he just doesn't have the energy for it. He just works so hard. He just wants to sleep in and wake up at like 4 o'clock or something. So it's kind of like a depressing / funny song about the reality of the American work life, where basically people are so overworked in general, you know, at these high performance jobs that all they can really do is just sleep in. That's like their reward. They just don't even have the energy to, you know, pack up, go to the airport, wait for the airplane, board it, you know, fly somewhere, deal with jet lag and all that kind of stuff. So this poor guy, he works really hard and he can't even have a fun vacation because he's just so damn tired. So that's kind of what this song makes me think of. But let's move along to a very unusual sounding song, track 4, which is called California English.
We Wouldn't ever gag you with a spoon, my only true love. Never really heard you speak the way it's unworthy of. Funny how the little college schools go language screwed up. Funny how the other private schools there's no hopper club. Someone took a trip before you came to ski in the Alps. Your father moved across the country just to do some bunny scout. Country cross the country, mom, contradict what I say. Living out the French connection, but we'll die in LA. Blasted from a disconnected light switch. Through the condo that they never finished. Bounced across the Saturday satellite dish. Through your brain to California English.
So this is kind of a strange commentary on those Valley girls in Los Angeles and in California. Because California English to me is that Valley girl speak, which makes you sound really bizarre and kind of annoying and obnoxious. And yet these are the girls whose parents have a lot of money. They probably have mansions in Malibu and stuff. And yet they just sound totally ridiculous, even though they go to these great private schools and they probably have like private tutors and they're probably going to go to some sort of Ivy League college. You know, and it's like a dead giveaway for the type of person who's just completely out of touch with like normal life, with reality. Somebody who's just so part of the privileged upper class that even their accent gives them away, right? And it's basically just about the kind of person, in my opinion, who is just so out of touch with how the normal person lives that they just have developed this own like accent, they've developed this own culture, and it's just really, really bizarre to encounter. I mean, I kind of imagine the narrator of this song, maybe he like got into Yale or something through a scholarship, and he's from a really small town, and now he's encountering these women, these young ladies who have this Valley Girl accent, and he's just noticing just how completely out of touch they are. And yet at the same time, he's falling in love with them because they're probably really beautiful. And it's tempting when they're obviously like from a very wealthy family. So it's kind of an odd song. That's what it makes me think of. It's just like the culture clash of the super wealthy elite and then like the small town Ivy League scholarship people. That's kind of what it makes me think of. But anyways, let's move on to track number 5, which is called Taxi Cab.
Unsentimental, traveling around, sure of myself, sure of it now. You stand this close to me, like the future was supposed to be. In the aisles of the grocery, in the blocks uptown. I remember well. But if I'd forgotten, could you tell? In the shadow of your first attack, I was questioning and looking back. You said, baby, we don't speak of that, like a real aristocrat.
So this song seems to be about a couple who have completely different financial situations going on. You've got the guy who clearly comes from like the lower or middle class, and he's dating this super upper class, wealthy young lady, probably from his college, right? Because in Manhattan, obviously, they intermix all the time, the super wealthy and the poor. And it sounds like this guy at a young age, at 20 or 21, however old he is, he just doesn't really ever feel comfortable in this situation. He feels like he doesn't really belong. He feels like it's kind of unfair to some degree that people like this even exist. I mean, if you think about it, somebody having hundreds of millions of dollars or even tens of millions of dollars is pretty ridiculous considering the state of the world for most people. You know, you've got entire continents, like almost all of Africa, living in these really third world conditions. And then you've got people like, I don't know, Elon Musk with billions of dollars. It just doesn't make any sense. And unless you're used to that, unless you've lived in that kind of situation or have been exposed to it for long enough, to suddenly be thrust into it must feel extremely weird, right? Because this guy probably, as I mentioned, got a scholarship to like Columbia maybe, and now he's dating this college classmate probably, who as he finds out is from the super wealthy upper class. And as he's with her, she clearly loves this guy because they're together shopping in the grocery store and they're standing very close together. And it seems like, their trajectory is that they're gonna move in eventually and then marry each other. But he just doesn't feel comfortable with this. He feels like he's cheating at life almost. He doesn't feel like maybe he deserves to be with this person. Like, what has he done exactly to deserve marrying some super rich girl? And then, of course, at the same time, what does she deserve to be super rich, right? He's probably like having all of these thoughts going through his head all the time. He's thinking about it too hard, is what it seems like to me. He sounds like the type of guy who really wants to earn his place. He's kind of an idealist, He's not really thinking about things in a mature adult way, in the sense that, like, you're not always going to be on the same level job-wise or financially or socially or whatever, And because you aren't, that doesn't mean they don't love you or that you don't deserve to be there. But this guy, he's kind of young. He's kind of an idealist. He's proud of the fact that he probably got a scholarship based on his own hard work to get into Columbia wherever it is. And for him, it's kind of cheating in a way to just start dating somebody who's going to give you like a free pass in life financially, so to speak. So yeah, they break up eventually, of course. But he's looking back on this relationship with this girl, and he's realizing he was being really stupid. He was being really young and naive. Back when, as I mentioned, he was just way too uncomfortable with just the reality of the world, is what it sounds like. So that's kind of what the song means to me. It's a culture clash kind of song. But let's move on to track 6, which is called Run.
Every dollar counts, and every morning hurts. We mostly work to live until we live to work. She said, there's nowhere else to go. We change in rows. It struck me that the two of us could run.
So on one hand, this song is about the fantasy of these two people, this couple, to escape the 9-to-5 grind where they work to live and then live to work, doing jobs that they hate. They're fantasizing about running away somewhere and living off the grid. Well, you know what? I gotta tell you guys, humanity is never satisfied, right? We no longer live in the cave. We're no longer hunting and gathering every day just to survive, right? We have the internet. We have video games, we have Netflix, we have cars, we have planes to take you to Hawaii, we have pepperoni pizza that you can order on Grubhub, and yet we're not satisfied. We have phones in our pockets, which basically make us cyborg, as Elon Musk has said. We're just never, ever satisfied. We're always complaining about something. We never look at the fact that we live in this amazing first world country. I'm saying that as an American. So I live in this amazing first world country, and I get to enjoy so many things that were completely impossible thousands of years ago when you were hunting and gathering, when you were worrying about whether you would die every day. So I get it on one hand that they hate their job, they hate the fact that they don't make a lot of money, and it is a grind. I don't disagree with them. But as a general commentary, I would say that You know, at some point, we've got to be just satisfied with how amazingly well society has progressed since the caveman days. You know, just enjoy the fact that you can play your Xbox, that you can watch YouTube, that you can listen to any album ever on Spotify for $10 a month. I mean, geez Louise, when are we ever going to just say that we've got it pretty good? So that's kind of what this song makes me think of. You know, I agree with them, but I also kind of disagree with them. But I get where they're coming from. But anyways, let's talk about track 7 next, which is probably the song, or at least one of the songs on the album. It's called Cousins.
You found a sweater on the ocean floor. They're gonna find it if you didn't close the door. You and the small one sit outside of the side in a house on a street they wouldn't park on a night. That was a risk taker, his was a shoemaker. You greatest hits 2006 little list maker. Chords in the melody, you eat it the call. Or you were born with 10 fingers and you're gonna use them all. Discover myself. If your art life is gritty, you'll be toasting my health. If an interest in culture should be lining the walls, when your birthright is interest, you could just accrue it all. Me and my cousins, and you and your cousins, it's a line that's always running. Me and my cousins, and you and your cousins, I can feel it coming.
Yeah, so this song is very reminiscent of that 60s Bob Dylan song, Subterranean Homesick Blues, very inspired by it. The video for this song is really fun, by the way. It's a very memorable song with that intense drumming, you know, that builds up. But the song itself is interesting. It's about the fact that the band comes from a very preppy background, possibly also upper class. I'm not 100% sure on that part. But the point is, you know, on one hand, they are writing preppy music. I mean, their lyrics especially are talking about that. But it sounds like the song is really about how they're being perceived by critics. Like, critics aren't really taking them seriously because they come from money. And, you know, if you come from money, how genuine can you be as a rock band, right? Because mostly it's like a rags to riches story. Although I will say, I mean, think about the Strokes. I'm pretty sure the Strokes, who are one of the most influential 2000s bands, I'm pretty sure some or all of them came from a wealthy background too. And yet we talk about Is This It as such a great album, and we don't really give them crap. So this song is really about, we focus on the wrong things, in other words. So like, why can't we just enjoy the quality of the music and all the hard work and effort they put into making a good album and a good song? Why do we focus on BS things like, yeah, but did you know that they come from a lot of money, and you know they could afford like a lot of guitar lessons and studio time, and like, doesn't that make them not as cool or not as worthy or not as rock and roll or whatever? So I kind of agree with them in the sense that it's kind of unfair. I like to judge people based on what they make. You know, I'm not going to say like, yeah, well, you're this or you're that, so I can't enjoy it as much as I want to, you know. I think that's total BS. So that's how I interpret Cousins, is it's them being very frustrated by the fact that critics are kind of blasting them for what they talk about with their songs and because of their backgrounds, you know. So and also because, like Paul Simon with Graceland, you know, they kind of incorporated the Afrobeat thing, or however you say it, into their style of music, which annoys a lot of people on the internet. I know a lot of people are like, that's cultural appropriation to use all this Afro-centric influence in your rock music. You know, who are you to use traditional rhythms and whatever with your white Caucasian rock band or whatever? I know those people exist. I think everyone needs to chill. Everyone needs to relax. Everybody just needs to just enjoy their songs. You know, it's just meant to be fun. It's meant to be a good time. Just chill. Just relax. So anyway, but let's talk about the last clip that I have for you guys, which is also the song on the album. It's really good, in my opinion. It's called Giving Up the Gun.
Now you're giving up the gun. When I was 17, I had a wrist like steel, and I felt complete. And now my body fades behind a brass charade, and I'm obsolete. But if the chance remains to see those better days, I cut the cannons down. My ears are blown to bits from all the rifle hits, but still I crave that sound. Your sword's grown old and rusty, but beneath the rising sun, it's locked up like a trophy, forgetting all the things it's done. And though it's been a long time, you're right back where you started from. I see it in your eyes, and now you're giving up the gun. I heard you play guitar down at a city bar where skinheads used to fight.
All right, so I definitely love this song. It might be the best song on the album, but I've always thought of it as like a metaphor for what it feels like to get older, you know, because he's talking about how when you're young and 17, you've got wrists like steel, because you've got so much potential in your life. You've got so many years ahead of you. And not only do you have your own potential within you, but you've got perceived potential from everybody else, because everybody looks at you like, oh, you're so young, you've got your whole life ahead of you, you can do anything you want, right? You can experiment because you can waste your whole 20s trying different things because you've got the time to do it. You know, you can date a bunch of people. And plus, young people tend to be the ones who get inspired to, you know, protest and start all of these, what did you call it, movements and things like that. That's generally a young person thing. But when you get older, your sword starts to rust, as he puts it. You start giving up the gun in the sense that, like, you no longer believe that you have any potential left, that you've either made it by the time you're 40 or you've wasted your life, and now you're just kind of like doing your 9-to-5 thing, waiting to die almost. So you're kind of giving up the gun, right? You no longer have that young spirit and energy within you. You no longer have that desire to be more than you already are. And it's really a mental thing. It's really a mental game, because certain people can definitely maintain that mental energy from when they're young all the way up to until they die, really. I mean, there are people who can do that. But it's very easy to succumb to the fact that you're now getting older, you're middle-aged now you're in your 50s, now you're in your 60s or whatever. And the older you get, the more people aren't surprised that you aren't doing anything too wild and crazy. So that's what this song makes me think of, is, you know, the expectations, people's expectations of your potential changes as you get older. It's just kind of how it is. But anyways, so that's Contra. Sorry for that weird cut, but my camera died. But anyway, so yeah, again, this is just a really fun album. It's just a very creative sound. I like the mix of Afrobeat and indie rock and, you know, like the preppy kind of themes going on. It's very different, very cool stuff. Just a joy to listen to be honest. And Cousins and Giving Up the Gun in particular are just really, really good songs, in my opinion. But anyways, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. And if you enjoyed my interpretations, please leave a like and subscribe. It'd really help my channel out. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, that is Contra. Check it out and have a good one.